As a franchisor, there's nothing more important than onboarding qualified franchisees that are a good fit, franchisees that are going to grow your brand and system. So there's nothing more important than your franchise sales discovery process. Too many franchisors, too many emerging brands are missing out on opportunity because they haven't developed the right franchise sales closing processes, presentations, and discovery day. And we have a special guest, and we're going to dive into all of that. Lisa, this is probably one of the biggest conversations and issues that come up so often. Everyone loves and wants to hear from Lisa. And today, let me just set the table because this is big. And I think there's probably no bigger expert, which is I'm a franchisor. I'm spending money on marketing. I'm qualifying franchisees. I'm getting interest in my brand. But what should my process look like? Those initial communications, my presentation, questions about should I review item 19? When should I review the FDD? What should my discovery process look like? And how do I overcome hurdles and inertia? So like a ton of things I threw out there, a ton of things I want to set the table on. And how's everything going?
It's good. I think it's a good conversation. It surprises me that we have to talk about it in a way, because it seems to be that you should know this stuff, but I get it. There's always people coming into the business and coming into franchising, and they think they have a really great widget and nobody else has it, or they're doing it a different way, and they're all, hopes and dreams. And yay.
Yeah.
Then we kind of like smack them down and say, okay, let's get
look,
it right. But
you get a great perspective because as a broker, right, you're working with hundreds of candidates. You're seeing, you get insight into so many franchisors. And it's hard when you're in it. A lot of franchisors don't see the gaps, don't see the holes in their process, and they're losing deals. And I think losing out on opportunity. I think the emerging brands, there's so much opportunity here if you focus on your process. So can I create some hypothetical situation here? Very vague. So Lisa, let's assume we have a pretty solid website. It's informative. There's brand story. There's good lead capture. A lead comes in. Let's talk about the process. And again, look, it would be hours if we dove into everything. But what should a good process look and feel like from that first contact and then, those initial, what would be the stages they should focus on?
I mean, I truly think what they have to remember is that everyone's outsourcing everything right now, and everything's digital, and you need to hit them from a million different channels, right? Even if you're small, even if you have one franchise unit and you have a really great brand. I mean, I think that's what we're always talking about, right? Is that it's the great brands, when they slip through the cracks, that just makes us throw our hands up, because we want to show them they just didn't even land on our radar. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing, and this goes back, I've been doing this forever, right? Speed to lead. That lead comes in, it doesn't have to be necessarily picking up the phone, but you've got to get in front of them with whatever content you have. And so if it's digital, you're sending them digital brochures and a quick welcome video, looking forward, here's my calendar. If it's from your website, of course, that chat pop-up thing has to happen, and somebody's chatting with somebody somewhere about, again, you're trying to get them on the phone, and I get that, but remember, everyone's trying to get them on the phone. So if they're searching for information, give them information. Don't keep it hidden behind some password protected after we talk portal. It drives me crazy. There's still franchisors out there saying we need an NDA. I'm like, are you kidding me?
No, that's crazy.
Like, you just lost them. You just lost them and you lost me. Don't make this hard. This has to be just a clear path to how do I get into this thing? How do I learn more information? Stop throwing roadblocks and sticks in their path. It's crazy to me that it's still happening.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking. So first step, right? Love your speed to lead.
Yep. From all directions.
But Lisa, that's the key there. So anyone listening, I mean, if you listen, what Lisa said is number one, don't hide information. And we started this conversation with, let's assume you have a deep dive website. I think on one of our community platforms, someone asked, well, how much info should I give and how much should I hold back? Lisa's point, don't hold back everything. Allow them to do a deep dive and research on your site. But
yeah, like I hate to break it to y'all, but those FDDs are public. They're going to find them. It's not hard. So if you have something to hide, we have a problem bigger than you not getting in contact with the people that are interested in looking at your brand. But that's a whole nother topic.
no, so speed to lead. Lisa, again, your point, have a welcome video. Why wouldn't you have one?
Right.
Right?
Just, this is who I am. This is what we do. And I mean, if you have a widget type brand, if you have a food brand or that type of thing, they've probably already been to your consumer facing website, and now they have found your franchise facing website, and that's great. But you also can't assume that they went to page 10, right? So you can send them just a quick video that says, here's information you can find. It's right in front of you. We're really looking forward to talking to you. But in the meantime, take a look at our menu. Take a look at this. And it's just enough to keep them engaged until 12 to 24 hours later, and you hit them with something else. What is it? I mean, gosh, this goes so back into some of what I've learned, but isn't it 7 times you need to touch someone? I think that goes back to my fitness days. We had to touch them 7 different times from 7 different media ways in order to get to talk to you. And I get taken that with me into the business I do now too. So it's a lot,
so Lisa,
it's connect them on LinkedIn, follow them on Facebook, whatever you got to do just to figure out how they want to be talked to.
I think the key there, that welcome video, and also explaining the process of what's coming next. Like, hey, our team member is going to reach out to you on whatever, or they're scheduling. So you make that initial contact, create an opportunity there for them to schedule a conversation.
Right.
You have a welcome video. What's next, Lisa?
Yeah, a little bit of information so they have something to look at before you talk to them, and then actually follow up. I can't tell you how many people, I mean, it happens a lot in what we do, I think, but how many people they want to get in front of us, they want to get in front of us, they want to get in front of us, and they get in front of us and their schedule's booked out for 3 weeks. Are you kidding? Schedule has to be available. Your development people need to be available.
I don't even want to believe that's a situation. I don't even want to believe that.
It's completely a situation.
All right, well, that's crazy. And if you're if you're a franchisor and that's what you're doing, you need to fire someone. So let's assume that.
Or hire someone. If you're that good and you're that busy, then hire somebody.
Typically, will candidates get on that call right away, or they'll meet up on that scheduled call?
It's my opinion that if they schedule it, yes, they're going to plan on booking into it. You know what I mean? Like they have booked it, but in the meantime, it's just nurturing. So it's a matter, and it can't just be an entire sales pitch. The whole pitch can't be a 7-drip email of let's call, right? We have to give them some more information and a reason to connect. I mean, I have that website. We do the same thing. It's watch these, see what you learn. We follow up. This is what it was about. This is what we're going to be talking about next. If you want to schedule a call, here we are. If you just want to keep watching from the wings, here's some information, because you want them, how we look at it is I want all their franchise roads and questions to lead back to me, right? I will be the person when they are ready to make that call, when they are ready to pull that trigger, or even just sincerely make an effort to be educated. I want to be the one they think of first. And I would think the franchisor feels the same way, that you have provided enough value as just a franchisor, as a business, as a brand, that they're going to leave with a good taste in their mouth, even if nothing ever happens. So, and I think that's just raise the bar a little bit, Mr. Franchisor, Mrs. Franchisor, please, because makes all of our jobs easier when it goes well and it goes smooth and they feel communicated with and they don't feel ignored.
So Lisa, call is scheduled. So many franchisors are going to be like, what does Lisa say about this? And Lisa did an amazing video, which I get comments to this day all the time about your advice, which your advice was no one wants to buy a franchise. They want to buy a business. But let's assume we have that first call. In an ideal world, what should that call look and feel like? How long should it be? What should be discussed? And then how do you end that call and what's the next step?
Right. If it's a schedule, I think it's different. So some franchisors out there do have that scheduler, kind of like I have. So I have someone calling out and saying, okay, you wanted to get connected. Let's schedule that first call. And so you shouldn't really invade their time there with a half-hour presentation and that type of thing. If they happen to have time, we're trained to do that. But truly, if the call is scheduled, the caller and the person they're calling should have an agenda of what we're going to accomplish. Like, yes, we're going to get to know each other, but you have to give them some value added information. It can't just be sniffing around to figure out if we like each other, that if it's worthy of another half-hour call, you're wasting time. So give them a little bit of a precursor. This is what it's going to be about. This is how we're going to get to know each other, talk to each other. And then I'm hoping, you're going to be able to understand possibly like the cost of the business to get in, make sure it's within your means, what kind of our basic product offering is, who we're looking for. We're going to get to know you. What are you looking for in a business? After that call, it should be mutually determined during the end of that call, is it worth our time to talk again? So enough has to be shared that you're not just, if you have $1 million franchise offering, I'm sure that you want them to know it's $1 million franchise offering, because if they can't afford that franchise, you don't want to waste another 3 calls before you get to unit economics and then find out, oh, this isn't going to work. So get in front of some of those big rocks right away to determine, okay, I think it makes sense for us to continue to get to know each other and go down this path, because from what we know of each other right now, potentially we have a good fit. And agreeing, we don't know yet if it is a good fit, but we know enough to know it's going to be worth our next 1-hour conversation. But something has to happen in that first half-hour-ish conversation. The mutual decision to move forward based on those big rocks are covered. How much does it cost and how much time do I have to invest? I tell everybody, and I'm getting on a soapbox, but those are the 2 investments. It's not just money. It's also time. How much money you have to invest is sometimes played close to the vest, but we should have a general understanding. How much time do you have to invest in this business? If you have 5 to 10 hours a week, that's fine. There's certain things, certain brands end the conversation there because they need owner operators.
Okay, so first call, big rocks, qualifying what the business is, time, investment. What's the next step? How do you end that call? Let's assume they're a good fit. And by the way, during that call, it's a half-hour call. You went over a basic presentation, right?
Yeah.
What our brand is about, maybe some big achievements, maybe something about our team and culture and what we're looking for, right? Anything else that stand out for that initial
It doesn't have
presentation?
to necessarily be a huge slide presentation,
No.
but slides don't hurt. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have even a 4-page agenda that you can just share screen and come back to. If there's any way to do that on video, great. But sometimes the first call, usually for me, even the first call is not going to be on video because everybody's a little too scared. You're still sniffing around. So, I mean, that's mostly going to be an audio call, half hour, make sure it makes sense. But let them know from here on out, we're on camera. It's a lot harder to disappear and ghost someone and just poof into existence when you've had a conversation and you've met them, even if it's over video, face to face. So get them serious that second and call beyond. You should be on camera.
Okay. So now that call ends. I don't know if we've given them any homework. how are we going about, what are we doing next?
If it's been mutually determined, set the call up. Dear franchisors, set the next call up. Don't leave it as, if you're interested, just reach out and back to me. It's lazy and it puts too much onage. They don't know enough yet to know if they're going to say yes or no. All they have learned is if they're still interested. If they're still interested, schedule the next meaty call and continue to schedule them. But it's death. And truly, in the world, I'll put on my broker hat. If that's your development process and it's always just leave it up to if they're still interested, you're going to lose broker deals because of it, because there's better developers out there that are scheduling that next call, and they are marching that person toward the opportunity for either a discovery day or the opportunity to determine this isn't going to be a good fit, but you have to march them forward.
So as we march forward, we're marching toward Discovery Day, right?
Yeah.
It seems like, Lisa, whenever we're speaking, we're in an imaginary battle. We're always
It's us versus the world. It's us versus the bad franchise industry.
Lisa, so how far, when should the next call be? 3 days?
Get it scheduled. My guess is it's going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 days, because most people have their schedule pretty tight, 3 to 5 days out. So usually it's going to be okay, but you're not just going to say, okay, the next call, we're going to talk about operations and go silent. You're going to say, okay, so for the next call, it really makes sense for you to get a better understanding of the operations and how we support you in executing and truly support you on making money. So that's pretty much what we're going to cover next. I'll send you a little bit of background so you can prep for that call, and then we'll do it. And then follow through, franchise developer head, follow through, send them some information so they can prep for the operations call. It could be just, hey, spend 10 minutes looking at our website, figuring out our product offerings, and maybe it's some portion of the operations, I don't know, photos of your storage sheds, if that's your business, and whatever it is, right? But give them something to look at and prep for the call. And then, because that way you're trying to stay front of mind all the time, especially in this early process. And so when you get to that operations call, hopefully you have good enough tracking, you know if they've done it.
So your second call would be focused on operations, the how-tos of the business,
Right.
how we do it, how you could do it, what's our technology, and before that, you be prepping them with that call with, I think that's a great.
Yeah. And just as an owner, what does your day look like? You know what I mean? So I'm sure the owner of a hamburger place isn't in the back patting together the hamburgers, but you know that as a franchisor, but the franchise owner may not know that. The franchise owner may not know what is basic to you. So let them, oh, this business is truly running a business. I never need to pound a hammer, clean a toilet, wash a window. I'm going to be in charge of the scheduling of, hiring of, marketing of, networking, whatever that is for the operation. But the operation is window washing. Got it.
What's one of the biggest or some of the biggest questions that candidates have during this call?
The operations call is usually time and labor. Like, because if you're not going to do it, you need to pay someone else to do it. How do I find them? How do you support me on finding them? That's all part of operations. So I think you just have to get, I mean, right now we need to get in front of labor, right? So just let them know, this is how we help you. I mean, there's some big brands out there that are doing a lot to help get in front of that question, because even if they don't think it's hard, I think that's what we forget. We, especially as a franchisor, you're very close to your operation. You know, finding a CPA for your CPA firm is not as hard as everyone says. The world, the news said that there's a CPA shortage, and your person saw that on the news and now is convinced that there's a CPA shortage. But when you're in that business, you might say, yeah, it's hard to get someone to hang out their shingle and be a CPA, but here's how we're going to help you find that CPA. we are partners with the blah, blah, blah college and the blah, blah, blah network and the blah, blah, blah this. And as franchisor, they're so close to it, they forget that that's a value add. It's just a given. And from the perspective of a franchisee, that could be their biggest hurdle. So just get in front of those operational perceptive hurdles. I mean, that's what franchise development should be. Just get in front of the questions. Get in front of the pushback.
That initial call, we'll call it that intro, get to know each other.
Yep.
Right? You
And
said
operations.
right. The
Yep.
next is operations, which is your advice. Get in front of all the questions. What is it going to look like and feel like to run and operate this business and address technical questions, labor, time. Now, during these calls, at any point, have you started to review with them, or would you have started to review with them any part of the FDD?
I would probably, if I can get them to the operations call, probably at the end of the operations call,
Okay.
because the next thing is going to be marketing. And so I would say, at this point, do you know what an FDD is? And remember, Charles, it's different. So a broker referral is going to even have heard that acronym before. Someone that came in from your website may not. So you might have a slightly different process based on where that person came from. I mean, that's why people work with brokers, is because they're vetted and they're prepared and they're just hopefully more educated, that type of thing. But after that ups call, it's probably time to start at least talking about, in franchising, there's an FDD, it's 250 pages, it's lawyers talking to lawyers, it's a disclosure. The first 100 pages is going to really disclose our relationship, and the end of it is going to be a sample of our agreement. It can be very overwhelming. Now is the time that we want to bring it out, because on our next call, we're starting to talk about unit economics, and a lot of the unit economics for a franchise system are laid out in the FDD. So you don't need to read all 250 pages, but unit economics dictates that we're probably going to talk through 5, 6, 7, 19. So why don't I get this into your hands, give it a look, and let's talk on the next call about unit economics. Does that sound good? Yes, it does. Schedule the call, follow through, send the FDD, send them then a little piece of, here's what's in the FDD. I mean, I share your outline. This is Charles. This is an FDD. It's 250 pages. It's lawyers talking to lawyers. It's broken down exactly.
By the way, that's my favorite part. I just imagine a room of unproductive lawyers talking to them.
They took an easy 10-page document and made it 250 pages. Way to go, lawyers. Anyway. But lay that out and let them know, on the next one, we are going to talk more about the money. The money parts of this are here. Okay. And then that way you've really presented, this is real numbers. This is a real number. This is, because they don't know that in franchising, the item 7 breaks it down, and the item 19, they don't, especially if they're not coming from a broker, they don't know that. So they could think you're just pulling numbers out of the sky, that you're allowed to say how much money you can make if this happens and if that happens and if magical unicorns fall from the sky. They don't know the legality behind everything we do. And so you need to bring it into conversation early to give them peace of mind.
So Lisa, so we had our intro call, our operations call. We're about to schedule unit economics. We've introduced the FDD at the end of the second call, that operations call. And so up until now, you haven't or wouldn't have talked about item 19 yet. That's for the next call. That's for the unit economics call.
I mean, chances are on that operations call, they're starting to wonder, hey, how much money can I make in this? But I have to tell you, your call is not the only information they're getting. They've been on your website. They've been on your consumer. They've been on your YouTube. If you have a decent item 19, my guess is they have a pretty good understanding of what it looks like.
Okay.
They just don't know it's an item 19 yet.
Right. So we're going to, at the end of operations, we're going to start teeing up the FDD and the unit economic story for the next call. Okay.
Right. and kind of the formality around it that you may have seen on our website, that you can, our average owner makes, nets 200 on $1 million, whatever it is. You probably saw that. On the next call, we're really going to be able to break that down, because you're going to have our disclosure. So then we can really get into the nitty gritty. So basically, again, you're just kind of helping them become educated to figure out if this is a good fit. There's probably not surprises. There's just details.
When we're working with our clients, and the advice you give, right? Some of my favorite advice is you gave me was, Charles, they want to know, can I do it, and how do I do it, and what's the technology and all this, right? And you're going over the presentations. We have that intro, operations, unit economics. I tell our clients, almost envision, as you're doing these presentations, that you're using your own website to walk them through all of this, because that's going to be a good sign. You're providing a deep dive into the website. Doesn't mean you're working off the site, but like you said, when at midnight or on a holiday, when they're looking at this and doing that deep dive, what do the franchisee testimonials videos look like? What is the substance of the unit economics story? What's found? So build it out on your website, almost to the point where your presentation is a screen share of different sections of the website.
Right. You're just kind of pointing out, you're pointing out what they have already had access to. You're just giving it the backlight that it needs in order to, now I understand. Now I understand what that means. Now I understand where you pulled that our average franchisee who's been in the business for 3 years is, grossing $1 million or whatever that number is. Now I see where you're getting it from, and I can see where I can get my path to get there. So,
right. Yeah. And I think that's a great focal point for these conversations, which is, how do we remove these obstacles? What our solutions are, and how we help you get to that destination.
Right.
So, taking your advice naturally, the good Fran Dev person scheduled a call right then and there. Following that call,
they can't, but
they scheduled it,
and you have to at least ask.
Right. And the candidate does, it's scheduled. There's a confirmation in between the next call, which is unit economics. There's maybe a small email or a video or information.
And for sure, the DocuSign FDD.
Okay. So now at this point, before the unit, so when we get off that operations call, FDD's out and it's going to the franchisee candidate.
Yeah. And you've let them know, again, if they're coming from a broker, they probably already know this, but you're going to need to sign this FDD. It's called item 23. It doesn't hold you to anything. I always tell people I've signed probably 1,500 of them, right? So it's the franchisor's responsibility to have you sign that receipt page. And then on the next call, we're going to go through, we're going to go through the unit economics, talk about how much it costs to get into the business, and then also how much money is being generated, how to generate the profits, whatever you can say within your item 19. I think at that point, it's probably a little too soon to say we're going to go through the FDD with you. I think it should just be like a step in the process of, so you know where the numbers came from, and possibly you're going to go through item 7. You're just going to pull it right up, because that is how much it costs to get into the business. And so that's what you're going to use as the basis for your presentation. You might pull up item 19 to use the basis where this is how we make money. These are income streams, that type of thing. Do you have a pretty good understanding at the end of that call? Do you have a good understanding of how much it costs to get in, and then how our owners are doing it, how they're making money? Great. Okay, next call, we're going to, determine what your territory looks like. And then we're also going to do a deep dive if you have any questions. We'll probably spend 45 minutes just going through that FDD. So take some time, go through it, make some highlights. Here's a couple things you might want to look out for. And then that's where you're going to get into it a little bit. On item 7 for us, make sure you notice that on the working capital line, we actually have 6 months built in, or we have 12 months built in. Just, remember that when you're looking at it. So you might bring some things up to them to draw their attention to, but then the next call is going to be laying out some territory. This is what it looks like. And questions, and it can't be, you always hate, got any questions on the FDD? You guys, they've never read an FDD before. And if they have, maybe they've read 2. They don't even know what questions to ask yet. So plan some time to say, okay, item 1 through 5, here's what it's kind of talked about in there. Did you have any questions about Brian's background in that previous business? Okay. 5, 6, and 7. Did you have any questions about that national ad fee, where that goes, that marketing, the fact that we're going to do this and we have a call center, and yeah, there's a fee associated, but we're going to be following up, booking calls into your schedule. There's this dashboard. Do you see all that happening? Yes. I mean, that's how you go through the FDD. It's not, did you have any questions? No. Okay. You tell them where they should have questions. Clarify they understand where your fees are coming from and the value proposition for that fee. And if you don't have one, take the damn fee out.
No, and that's a key point, right? What's the value proposition?
Right.
So Lisa, we have the unit economics call, right? Which is a conversation about ROI, right? So your point, what's item 7? Explain, hey, we have reserve capital estimates. What does our item 19 look like? What that potential could look like? And then unit economics and operations. During that unit economic conversation, also you've tipped into item 19, item 7, just ROI purposes.
Right.
And then your last call, the last call before discovery, you're doing a deeper dive. What does your territory look like? How would we go about, what would your operations look like? And let's go into more thorough evaluation of things we think you should be aware of in the FDD. Your point, if there's a fee, what's the value proposition associated with it? What do you call that last call? What category would you put that in?
That's probably the FDD review call.
Okay.
FDD and territory review, I think, because that is pulling in the FDD and it's pulling in a less of a hammer down type of conversation. How much territory are you getting? What is the expectation within your territory? If there's a development schedule, all of it is coming from the FDD. So you're now able to marry the fact that what the FDD is and the expectation from both parties based on it. And then from there, I think you really are, do you have more questions at this point? Anything that we went over, you have a good understanding of everything, super duper. Let's get you into, and you're asking them, do you think you're ready to start having some conversations with some of our owners? If there's owners in this system.
Okay. So the goal of the FDD and territory review call is the next step discovery day and before or is it?
Personally, I think the next step would be some validation.
Okay.
Because that's where the rubber meets the road. So, and there can be franchisors out there that agree or disagree with me, and that's okay. So if the next step there is discovery day and then you let them do validation, that's fine. It's my personal opinion that the deal is either made or killed in validation, not at discovery day. So get it out of the way.
So the introductions are made, validation's happening, you're communicating with the candidate.
And you're managing that validation. I think that that's an important tip too. So many times I think that this is definitely where everyone has their own way of doing it. So as a broker, this is when I tell people, like, this is when I do my brokering. I make sure franchise developer, yes, shared the list. Maybe they're not scheduling calls, but they reached out to the franchisees that they introduced to, said, this is this, here's the background. Like, there's some work happening. It's not just, there's 150 owners in the back of our FDD. And in your case, I think the franchisors are smaller. So there's probably, maybe there's only a handful, right? I mean, I know you have some much larger brands out there, but I think the people that are maybe watching this video are still getting started. And so possibly you have some recorded validation videos too, to kind of protect the time of your owners. You're not saying you can't reach out, but if you want to know, Doug and Linda and how long they've been in business and some of their background before they got into the business, here they are. And that way you're going to save everybody a little bit of time in validation. And the same thing, I think at that point, you're really starting to marry your business to your potential franchisee. So I've had brands, and it's gone really well, say, okay, I'm ready to introduce you to my owners, share some info. Like, I would love to put a bio sheet together on you, because it's going to solidify that relationship a little bit. This is Brad and Lisa. This is what they do right now. This is why they're looking at the business. We've been through these calls. They've asked great questions. They're in Appleton, Wisconsin.
So, and then
be ready for their phone call.
And that's in the mutual introduction and how they're connecting them.
Yep. There are franchisors out there that set that call up. I don't know that that's good or bad. I mean,
right.
It just depends on the size of your system and that type of thing. I mean, there's franchisors that do group calls, which I totally understand. I mean, you've got a brand out here that's just on fire, and you've got 10 franchise owners, and they're like, okay, just so you know, my full-time job can't be to sell more franchises for you and tell you how great y'all are. So, I mean, there's a spot for some of those recorded calls too, but giving them the opportunity to have a one-on-one is, in my opinion, it's important.
So naturally, the next step and goal is the discovery day.
Yes.
Where do you see things start unwinding at this stage, Lisa, where a candidate is hesitant to go to a discovery day or things start slipping? What's usually the commonality or cause of what's going on?
Well, now it's getting serious. So something along the way didn't get answered, and it got swept under the rug, and it's got to be brought to the light. So at this point, it really does have to be, okay, we've been through operations and unit economics, and you understand our brand, you've talked to our owners, we're ready to invite you to come in and meet the founder. And if they slam on the brakes, you missed something. You missed some sort of red flag somewhere that they're, oh no, I just thought I was still learning. Well, if they still thought they were still learning, you miscommunicated something along the way, something along the path. They missed that the conversations were getting more serious, that it's time. This is naturally the next step.
The next step, right? This is
naturally the next step is that we're going to meet face to face. We're going to sit down for dinner, make sure we are who we say we are. We're franchisor who we say we are. You're franchisee who you say you are. And that there's nothing major left to ask except, do you see yourself in this business and becoming part of this organization?
And so because so many new franchisors have questions about what a good discovery day is. And I think the way you framed everything, which is you need to be doing the work well before the discovery day, right? But what would be some parameters or checklists that franchisors should be hitting during discovery day?
I think it's touch, taste, feel, right? So it's you've already asked all the questions. There's no reason to go through the item 19 and no reason to go through. I mean, you've already done all that stuff.
Right.
So now, I mean, my agenda that I usually see is dinner with the management team. Usually happens the night before if they're getting in on time. If not, it's breakfast with the management team. You've told them which hotel to go to. We're going to pick you up. We're going to have breakfast as a team, get to know each other face to face. Developer's going to be there. Some of your major C-suite people are going to be there. But then we're going to go visit. So we're going to go visit a location, see it up and running, see the back end. If it's a big tech company and there's not much to see, that's a different story. But in most of these, service-based businesses, food-based businesses, there's something to see. There's some sort of corporate office to get a feel for, to get within the four walls. So do that. If it's an insulation business, I went to a consultant, discovered I was spraying insulation. Like, look at me, I'm the girliest girl on the planet. I'm spraying insulation. So how hard can it be? But that's an experience where even as an owner, I may never spray insulation again, but I know I was able to figure it out. I pressed the right buttons, I suited up, and I got to experience that. I also got to see the call center, shake hands with the marketing department, see how they're going to support me in my business. Because no matter what market you're in, you feel that your market is different. So if you've been super successful in Omaha, can I be successful in Appleton? Well, when I meet Bill from the digital marketing department, how he's going to support me and work with me, so it has that kind of culture of support, that's what I need to see at that point. So it's got to be, I mean, you have to bring the people in, let them know like, it's a big deal. It's not just a dog and pony show. You're actually, you're making human contact to determine if you should get married for the next 10 years. It's a 10-year franchise agreement.
And it's that connection and relationship. What are there any things you're like, I wish franchisors would not do this at Discovery Day?
Sometimes I think they almost try to make it too entertaining. And then we're going to go have massages and it's an ice cream shop, right?
Right, right, okay.
How come are you going, like, or go to the racetrack, or, I mean, I get that you want to be casual and that type of thing and have it be entertaining, but I think you have to keep in mind what we're trying to do and keep it business, and then, dinner and off they go. And I think that what franchisors sometimes miss is they'll have them come to the corporate office and they spend all this time at the corporate office and they're going to do a drive-by of whatever the store is. I think discovery should be a discovery of the business itself. Corporate office is great, but it's not necessarily, that part is already kind of been discussed. The call center's over here and the marketing department's over here. And, there's a deep bench of support. So you're having some meetings there, but I think the best discovery days are letting the owners see what their office and envision themselves in that business looks like.
So Lisa, Discovery Day goes great.
Yep.
It's a good fit. How do we lock this up?
Yeah. So within 24 hours of Discovery Day, there's usually a formality of sending out a letter of approval, calls made by the developer person. But there's also a formal letter of approval saying, okay, this is, you've been approved. Welcome to the family. This would be your next step. So we want to determine, you've already had the funding conversation because you probably pinged that around the unit economics call. But now you're saying, get your funding in place. We're going to hold this territory for the next however long you're willing to hold it, 3 to 4 weeks, probably based on whatever, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. You're going to get some things in order, answer any further questions that you have that came up from Discovery. But as far as we're concerned, we're ready to bring you into the family.
And you raise a good point, Lisa. So for franchisee candidates that are going to obtain financing or use their 401k, what stage would you start connecting them with suppliers and advisors?
Usually back at unit economics, because now you've talked about how much it costs to get into the business. And so it's a natural kind of, it's a natural segue. So it's a natural of, okay, we talked about the fact that this business costs approximately $200,000 to stand up. Have you given some thought on how you're going to fund the business? Again, if they've talked with a broker, chances are they have given it some thought, and they probably had a call, so they know what they should be looking at and that they're within their economic reach. If they came in through your website or something like that, still that unit economics call, probably your initial call, you talked about the big rock. So they've said, yeah, no problem. We got that covered. Unit economics calls when that gets a little bit more serious. So now, okay, we went through the item 7. You see it's anywhere from 150 to 300,000 to stand one up. We're already thinking that you're going to be a 2 territory market. So you're going to be closer to that 250 range. Do you know how you're going to fund the business? Okay, well, we've got, several funding partners that we work with. So go ahead, have a call with, Wendy or Eric or Christine or whoever your person is. Make a couple introductions probably, just to give that candidate the ownership of choosing who they work with. But then it's probably been predetermined because you're following up with them also then on the FDD call. How did that call go with funding? Any problems? How do you think you're going to do it? Okay. It's still conversational, but when you start talking about money, you're infusing the sincerity of the venture. So
Lisa, if you had a guess, what percentage of deals, great discovery day, everything feels right, they're approved, but the deals fall off the tracks?
I don't know what the stats are on it. I know when I first started, so 10-ish years ago, if they were at Discovery Day, chances are this was going to happen. It would have had to be a big deal. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen change in the business, and there's been a couple, that's a whole nother conversation for us. But one of the biggest things is the amount of discovery days that a candidate will attend. So it used to be one discovery day. Chances are they were going to go forward. If anything, you know what I mean? By then it was pretty much a done deal. And I think now we're seeing that, and I don't know if it's from the franchisor perspective. I don't know if COVID with the whole virtual discovery day did it, became a heck of a lot easier to do a virtual discovery day on a Friday afternoon than get in a plane, fly to a location, shake hands with someone. So I guess I don't know that I'm the best person to ask on that. I will say I've had more candidates. Last year was my best year ever. So I had a really good year, and this one is starting pretty great too. But I did have candidates go to Discovery Day and not move forward with the business.
Any insights there?
It's my opinion that the franchisor actually got them to Discovery Day a little too soon.
Okay.
And so the franchisor, my candidates were a little bit surprised at kind of the non-negotiable portion. And I mean, that could have been on me too.
Okay. That's a fair statement.
It was, they kind of thought, okay, I like it. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to negotiate for more territory. And again, my biggest year can also equate to my busiest year. And so I might have let things fall through, but I think that had something to do with it. The fact that the franchisor and the franchisee hadn't gotten some of those difficult conversations out. And I think that possibly they thought after meeting Discovery Day, oh, they're going to love me and they're going to be willing to negotiate that, or franchisor, oh, they'll be willing to maybe understand that fee once they see us. And it should have probably just been discussed in the beginning. But
Lisa, those are amazing insights. And I think, you make my job easier because we're working with so many amazing franchisors. Lisa, I appreciate the amazing advice, right? There's so many franchisors out there, emerging large brands. They're spending a ton of dollars and sometimes they're not converting the deals, and so many people have questions about a great process. And I think now's the time to upgrade the process and really take advantage of a competitive position, provide information, provide a detailed process. But Lisa, I absolutely know no one on this planet would give better advice than you just gave for franchisors. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I think the thing to remember for the franchisors is that you do something that's repeatable.
Yep.
Be a franchisor. Franchising is creating a success and being able to replicate. So do that in your process. It may seem like a lot, and it may seem like a dress rehearsal and all of this type of thing that you're doing. But if you get it right, then you can repeat it, tweak a little bit, repeat it. So it's not a waste of time and it's not a waste of effort if the end is successful. And so I think that's the biggest thing too, is that sometimes the franchisors think, well, maybe once I get to 10 locations, then I'll worry about that. And you think, you ain't going to get to 10, right? So,
Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you.